Hey everyone, this will be my first video actually, but I'll be documenting the steps to install Appium for those of you who want to get into Appium. Maybe you're in the QA field, or for those that have Appium experience but don't quite know how to set it up yet. I ran into some issues myself, but sorry, I've made some documentation here that should get you started from a fresh restore. So when I say a fresh restore, currently we're using a personal Mac of mine, early 2015 model, running the latest macOS Mojave 10.14.4. I'll be going over how to install the latest version of Appium at the time that I created this video, which is 1.12, along with Xcode 10.2. Running the Appium inspector against iOS 12.2. So let's go ahead and start here. I already performed the first few steps just because they are fairly time consuming. So your first step will be to install Xcode from the App Store. Go into the App Store here. If you type in Xcode, go ahead and download the latest version. I already have it open, or I already have it downloaded. So once you have Xcode installed, go ahead and add your developer account. So you will need to have a paid, active Apple developer account for this to work, or a company account possibly. I went ahead and added my own personal Apple account, so make sure you add it here if you have not already. So let's get into this. All right, so once you have a Apple account added, first thing you do is go ahead and launch Xcode. You're going to go into your Windows, Devices, and Simulators. In this instance, we're going to be covering Appium running on a real iOS device, so not a simulator. And I'm not a professional by any means. I don't work for Appium. This is just something I do for work, and I also like to do on my spare time. So let's connect this iPad here. I have a iPad 6th generation. So once you connect your iPad, you should see your Xcode recognize that iPad and start installing, performing some installs on that device. Go ahead and let it finish here. It shouldn't take too long. In the meantime, I can kind of show you how to get to your UDID because you'll need that in the future here. So once you have your iPad connected to your Mac, go ahead and open iTunes and filter through this data section. Eventually, you'll reach a number called a UDID. If you right click on it, you can copy that. Keep this number handy so you can use it later on during this process. So, all right, so it looks like our Xcode has finished installing whatever it is it needs to install. So once it's done, go ahead and personally click on your iPad. I probably can't show you this step, but if you click on your iPad, you go into your settings, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see a developer option. On the developer option, if you click on that, you'll see a enable UI automation tab or section. Just go ahead and enable that option, and then go ahead and go back to your home screen. All right, so next we're going to install Java. So go ahead and open a terminal section or session. So I'll open a terminal session here. Go Java minus version. I don't have Java installed, so it should bring up this pop-up. This is probably the easiest way to install it. Go ahead and hit more info. It should bring up a Oracle window where you can download the latest JDK, which is version 12 for me at the moment. Go ahead and accept the agreement. Download the Mac OS DMG file. Let's wait for this to finish downloading. Once it's downloading, go ahead and double click on it. Should extract that JDK. Go ahead and install it. Accept all the defaults. All right. Once it's done, we can move the install file to the trash. Go back to our terminal session and run the same command as before. And you should get a Java version response here. If you don't, then you have a problem with your install. Try running it again. All right, so we'll leave that session up there. Once you have Java installed, go ahead and run the following commands. And I'll have all these steps located in the description of this video. So if we could pretty much copy paste everything. Just keep in mind that if you do copy paste, you might run into issues with the special characters, like the quotation marks, the dashes. I have seen it copy dashes in a strange way, so it's best to type it out, but for the most part, you should be able to copy paste. Should prompt for your password. It should go ahead and go through its install process. We'll keep this here. I'll actually close this out. Let's expand this window. This first line is probably the longest, takes the longest to install, but it shouldn't be too long. Excuse me, I'm coming off of a cold, so I got a cough that just refuses to go away. And just some background information if needed. I did restore this Mac to its factory settings, so restarting the Mac, holding down the Command R keys, wiping the hard drive first, and then reinstalling the Mac OS from the Command R menu. Outside of that, all I did was pre-install Xcode, since that does take quite some time to install. All right. So it looks like it's complete there. I'll type the rest of these commands in. The next one will be brew update. Usually you don't have to run this, but I just do for good measure. Brew install get. install node. Alright, brew, install Carthage. Alright, let's just copy this one. Alright, so with this latest 1.12 Appium, I did notice that I get some issues here. There's probably a better fix for this, but I have documented a temporary fix that seems to work for me. So I'm going to run these next few commands. I think if you don't get this error, you can skip all the way to step 12. Um, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so we're going to install iOS deploy. Don't worry about these warnings. Still seems to work even with the warnings, so we'll install the Appium Doctor. Alright, once we install the Appium Doctor, we're pretty much set. We'll leave this as is. We'll open a Safari instance, go to appium.io, download the latest version of Appium, which is 1.12, the DMG file. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Alright, go ahead and install this. Alright. Once you install it, make sure you see it under your launchpad and try to launch it first. I have noticed sometimes when you download the Appium DMG from the website, sometimes it doesn't install correctly. It's corrupt. If so, uninstall it, delete this DMG, re-download it from the same site, and try to install it again. And that usually resolves my problem. But just for good measure, I always launch Appium and make sure that I do get the start server button here, or it does launch. So if you do see this, go ahead and close out of it. You can delete this DMG file, and we can continue on with the next steps. So, all right. Once we close Appium, we're going to go ahead and relaunch Xcode. Okay. Now this path I'm going to load here to the WebDriver Agent Xcode project. This could change. This has changed before through the various Appium versions. But currently it does set the Xcode project within this path for this particular version of Appium. So we're going to go ahead and open this project. All you have to do is a Command-Shift-G on this screen. Paste the path in. There you go. Should just be able to open it. Alright, and once you open it, you want to click on this WebDriver agent and go into the WebDriver agent lib. Enable this automatically manage signing. Go ahead and enable that. Set your developer account for your team. It should say none required. Don't code sign. That all looks good. Go ahead and click on the WebDriver agent runner next. Do the same thing. Automatically manage signing. Set the team to yourself. If you do get a revoked certificate, go ahead and revoke it, and it will create another one. You want to make sure you don't have any errors on this screen or any errors on this screen. So these look fine now. Go ahead and exit Xcode. It automatically saves, so you don't need to save anything. And that is pretty much steps 15 through 26. Alright, so now we're going to go back to our terminal session, which I have here. Run these commands. Okay. CD to this path. Run this command here. Alright, once we're done with that, we do want to run our Appium Doctor just to make sure that everything has installed correctly. So this is key. You might be prompted for your password. Okay, so you'll see a couple warnings. That's fine. I haven't personally gone through to resolve these yet. But what you really want to pay attention for is the necessary dependencies. So if you can see here, all the necessary dependencies have passed. Looks like it's completed with no fix needed. As long as you get that message, you should be fine. You don't need to worry about these errors. Don't know what happened there. All right, so once we run the Appium Doctor, we are pretty much set. We can go ahead and exit our terminal session. Launch Appium now. Once we launch Appium, we can leave the host import defaulted. Go ahead and start the server. Once we start the server, we want to click on the Start Inspector session here. And we want to populate a few values, right? So this is where we set our desired capabilities. So this is where, first thing I said is the UDID. This is from the step I mentioned earlier. You want to grab your UDID either from Xcode or from iTunes, paste it here, and your bundle ID of your app. In this case, I'm just going to use the Safari app, which I believe I can just grab from online. Let's just do iOS 12 bundle IDs. So if you're testing a custom application, you do want to grab the bundle ID for that app. That will launch the application on your Appium inspector. So in this case, let's go to Safari. I'm just going to grab this bundle ID, paste it here, automation name, I'm going to do XCUI test, platform name, it's iOS, and platform version. Currently our iPad's on the latest version of 12.2. If you're on a prior version of 12.2, like 12.1, you don't need to enter the second number or the third number. So if it's 12.1.4 or 12.1.1, just put 12.1 here. Device name, this could be anything. In this case, this is my iPad 6th gen. And I think that's it. So let's delete this last one here. All right, once you have that, just make sure your iPad is not locked and is unlocked. For good measure, I usually just unplug my iPad and replug it back in just to make sure it has a fresh connection. Okay, looks good. And now I will start the server. There it goes. All right, so once I start the server, the first time around, it should take quite a while. It's going to install the WebDriver agent app onto your device. So you should see a very similar response to this if you're doing it on your own. It'll kind of hang here, um, and then shortly after, it'll start installing the WebDriver agent. Might not look like it's doing anything, but it does take quite some time during this first install. So once you start the inspector and it successfully launches once, this should go a lot faster, but it looks like it's still working. All right, so you might get some password prompts as well. I forgot to mention that. And you will get a lot of these. So enter it, hit always allow, and just keep going. Oops, looks like something happened here. That might be because I didn't enter my password fast enough. Let's try this again. Alright, once you see that kind of message here, looks like it's installing WebDriver agent as I speak. And it went ahead and it did launch Safari. So once it does that, you should see your Appium inspector come up. This is a Safari app, just a built-in Safari app. You can click on your different elements. Just be advised that the click methods don't work that well. So you can see here, I'm trying to get to this text box, but it's kind of highlighting everything. So sometimes you got to skim through these different options until you find what you're looking for. So in this case, you kind of see it's highlighting that top menu section. See here, there's a time, possibly the time and year maybe, or time and date. What else here? We do have the signal bar as well. So yeah, so sometimes you have to play around with that. But other than that, this should be enough. This ensures that you have a valid connection on your device. It deploys the WebDriver agent. Um, you can recognize your objects. So I'll upload another video on how to use this along with Eclipse and TestNG to perform, to actually write some automation against some of these objects. But as long as you have Appium installed, this is probably the hardest part. It took me a long time just to build up this documentation because it's not very clear on the Appium website. So other than that, yeah, let me know what you think of this video. I'll do my best to upload this exact same video for all the newer versions of both Xcode and Appium and iOS as they release. So I'll have those on my page as well, or on my YouTube channel. So thanks.